Thorin Oakenshield, Richard Armitage, comes at the prancing pony on the outskirts of the Shire in a flashback, orders a dinner, and realizes that he is being observed by numerous sinister-looking clients. When Gandalf the Grey, Ian McKellen, joins Thorin, the Watchers flee. Gandalf encourages Thorin to embark on a journey to find the Arkenstone. Thorin will be able to regain the dwarves' lost realm of Erebor from the dragon Smaug, as well as the throne of King under the mountain, with the help of the stone. Gandalf advises enlisting the help of a thief to take the Arkenstone from the dragon-guarded mountain. 12 months later, not long after the previous film's conclusion, Bilbo, Martin Freeman, Gandalf, Thorin, and the Dwarven Company are pursued down from the Carrock by orcs, where Bilbo notices a gigantic bear lurking nearby. Gandalf advises the group to take sanctuary at a nearby dwelling. They arrive just ahead of the bear, which Gandalf reveals to be their host, Bjorn Michael Persbrand, a skin changer who can take the appearance of a man or a bear once the doors are safely barred. Bjorn lends his horses to the group so that they can evade the pursuing orcs and reach Mirkwood Forest, remarking that he dislikes dwarves but despises orcs far more. They pursued and tortured his kind for years, and Bjorn is the last of them. The necromancer voice, Benedict Cumberbatch, summons Azog, Manu Bennett, the orc chieftain, to Dol Guldur, where he is granted command of the army. Azog assigns the responsibility of pursuing the dwarves to his son, Bald, Lawrence Makwari. As the others approach Mirkwood, Gandalf departs, telling Bilbo and the dwarves not to deviate from the forest route and to wait for him before entering the mountain. Bilbo climbs a tree to regain their bearings after becoming disoriented due to the evil enchantments that make the woodland so perilous. He notices the lonely mountain, but also notices the treetops flapping abnormally. When he returns to the ground, he sees that the corporation has been taken over by gigantic and vicious spiders. Bilbo kills 2 of the spiders and frees the dwarves from the spiders' webs with the help of his sword, which he calls Sting during this confrontation, and the One Ring. The dwarves are abducted by Wood Elves headed by Tauriel, Evangeline Lilly, and Legolas, Orlando Bloom, the son of Elven King Thranduil, Lee Pace, while fighting the assaulting spiders. Thorin is angry with Thranduil for refusing to assist the dwarves after Smaug drove them out of the lonely mountain, and he refuses to negotiate. Thranduil orders that they all be imprisoned in the elves' legendary escape-proof prisons. However, Bilbo uses his ring to avoid detection by the elves and pursues the prisoners to their cell. Keeley, Aidan Turner, falls for Tauriel, who appears to be interested in him. Legolas is likewise fond of Tauriel, but King Thranduil has advised her to avoid him. Legolas is not for the likes of her. Bilbo takes the jailer's keys and assists the dwarves in escaping from the halls of the Wood Elves by floating down the river in empty wine barrels. Bolg and his troop of orcs, who had been waiting for them, assault them along the route. Bolg wounded Keeley with a poisoned arrow when he tries to open the river gate. Tauriel and Legolas, dispatched to track down the fleeing dwarves, end up assisting them in repelling the orcs. Several miles downriver, Bilbo and the company encounter Bard, Luke Evans, a bowman and descendant of the original Lord of Dale, who is waiting on his barge to collect the empty barrels. They unite their resources in order to pay Bard into smuggling them into Lake Town, Esgaroth. Bard covers the dwarves and Bilbo with fish using the empty barrels. Alfred, Ryan Gage, the weaselly assistant to the town's master, stops him at the main gate, nitpicking that the barrels are intended to be empty, and the contents would be tossed into the lake. Bard argues that the citizens of the town require the fish for food, and Alfred lets him go, warning him that he knows where Bard lives and that he is being monitored. According to Bard, the community is small and everyone knows where everyone lives. The dwarves sneak into Bard's house through the privy, undiscovered by the town's elaborate spy network. The dwarves laugh at the improvised weapons provided by Bard and are so apprehended while attempting to take better weapons from the town armory. They are brought before the master of Lake Town, Stephen Fry, where Thorin persuades the townspeople and the master that the dwarves would share the wealth of the reclaimed mountain with Lake Town. The adventurers are given a lavish send-off, but Thorin orders Keely to remain behind because his wound is slowing him down and worsening. Keely's brother Philly, Dean O'Gorman, and Oin, John Callan, remain with him. Beaufort, James Nesbitt, also stays after passing out under the table during the feast and missing the boat. Meanwhile, Thranduil learns of Sauron's return via captured orc and chooses to wall off the elf realm in Mirkwood to safeguard it from the approaching evil. However, Tauriel departs to assist the injured Keely, and a concerned Legolas pursues. The rest of Thorin's party travels to Erebor in pursuit of the cliff that shelters Durin's door. They find the keyhole in a secluded nook and try to locate it on the map. When they are unable to locate it, they attempt to bludgeon their way in and are defeated. They leave frustrated, knowing that the sun has set on Durin's Day, the last day of the season. However, a few moments later, Bilbo deciphers Thorin's map's clue about the last light of Durin's Day. Moonlight beams through the keyhole, and Bilbo enthusiastically summons them back. Thorin opens the mountain's secret door. Thorin is overtaken with emotion at seeing his former house, and sent Bilbo to find the Arkenstone. Balin, Ken Stott, cautions Bilbo not to disturb the dragon. Smaug, voice, Benedict Cumberbatch, awakens and discovers Bilbo as he slips down the tunnel in search of the Arkenstone. Bilbo puts on the ring and vanishes. Despite Smaug's ferocity, Bilbo holds his ground and appeases the dragon. Smaug is gratified yet enraged that anybody would question the sacredness of his home. Smaug continues to interrogate Bilbo, collecting more information about his intruder's identity. Bilbo eventually finds the Arkenstone, but is unable to take it. Smaug explains that he wants Bilbo to steal it because the dragon fears that Thorin will succumb to greed like his grandpa. As the dragon passes above Bilbo, the Hobbit notices a bare area on Smaug's breast where Bard's ancestor's black arrow blasted a scale loose. Simultaneously, after dispatching Radagast with a message for Galadriel, Gandalf enters the orc-infested Dol Guldur and battles Azog, his band of orcs, and the Necromancer in a ferocious combat. The Necromancer appears to Gandalf as the Eye of Sauron during the battle, revealing his real identity. Gandalf is captured at the end of the battle. Tauriel and Legolas arrive just in time to fight off the orcs, who had tracked the dwarves to Bard's house. Legolas pursues Balg, battling with him on Lake Town's floating byways before going on a mounted pursuit on land. Tauriel treats the injured Keely with her healing skills, and some king's foil scavenged from a pigsty by Beaufort. Sensing the approaching dragon, Bard goes out to put the last black arrow into the town's windlance, a giant crossbow perched on a tower, so that it can pierce the dragon's armor. The flaw is a missing scale, thanks to Bard's ancestor Girion, the last lord of Dale. The master's men arrest Bard, but not before he hands over the black arrow to his son Bane, John Bell, who hides it in a small boat. To assist Bilbo, the dwarves enter the mountain. Smaug, enraged, pursues them into the caverns. When Thorin and company visit a lonely room, they discover the last of Thror's people dead, trapped by Smaug many years previously, and starving to death. Thorin refuses to submit, and devises a fresh strategy to fool Smaug into rekindling the forge with his flaming breath. The gold in the furnaces melts and flows down a system of channels into a massive mold of his grandfather, King Thror. Smaug, having comprehended Bilbo's Sparrow Rider clue, sets out to burn Lake Town in retaliation. When he sees Thorin atop the big mold, he comes to a halt. The sides of the mold are broken, and the solid gold statue that had developed collapses, covering Smaug in molten gold. After a few moments, Smaug smashes through the main gate, flying through the air, shaking off the gold coating. "What have we done?" asks Bilbo, as he watches Smaug fly off into the darkness to wreak destruction on Esgaroth.